What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Case Digital. My name is Zach. In today's video, we're answering the question of what does a map do in Python. So without further ado, let's hop right in and start coding. All right, so a map function is actually pretty cool in Python. So I don't use it a ton, but there are places and times where I do use it. A lot of times you can do kind of like what you want with a map with list comprehension. But essentially with a map, what you'll do is say something like y value is equal to, or if I wanted a new x value, we'll just say this. We're going to basically take this iterable and we want to square everything. So rather than it be 2, 3, 4, and 5, we want it to be 4, 9, 16, and 25, right? All right, so to do such a thing, what we would do is say, I'll say x squared is equal to, and then we need to give it a map. So with a map, what you can do is it's going to take in, as its parameters, it's going to take in a function, which is you're going to use like our square function, and then it's going to take in an iterable. In our case, it's going to be x. But that means we also need to go out here and make our squared function. In this case, like again, this could be any function that you're trying to do with an iterable, such as a list. And in our case, we're going to say def squared is equal to, actually, yeah, we'll just do it this way to show. So you can do squared and we'll say x is equal to here. Or so we'll just do y is equal to this. And then we say return y squared, right? So essentially what we're going to take is we're going to take this function and we're going to apply it in here. And the idea is when you run this map function, it will go through and essentially square each one of these values, right? So if I go ahead and print this, we'll say print, do an f string of this guy is equal to that. So when we run this, what you'll see is Python actually outputs this as a map object. And so to get, like, how do you get a mapped object from, or how do you get this kind of list back from a mapped object? Well, you can just simply wrap this in a list, and just like this, you will get your x squared. So 4, 9, 16, and 25. So again, the idea of what a map does is it'll essentially say, hey, give me your function, and I'll go apply that to your iterable, right? And then what it'll do is basically take this and loop through it. It's essentially going to act like you're doing something like 4x in, or 4 val in x, val, well, you could do something like this. Technically, it'd be something like this, equals squared, and it would be y dot append val squared, right? So basically, in these 3 lines of code, you're simplifying it with this 1 line of code, right? So if I rerun this, and I print out y here, you'll see that these two should be the exact same. So 4, 9, 16, and 25, just like we have above. So that is essentially the beauty of a map, is it can kind of simplify this. But like I mentioned before, you could also do the same thing with list comprehension, and you could do something like, we'll say z is equal to, and I can say, so I could either do it this way, I could either say square, and I can do in my val here, 4 val in x, and if I go ahead and print this out, this should give us the exact same answer as the other two, which it does. Or I could also say something like, here's my function here, and I just say val squared, right? But then if you have a more complicated function, it's probably better to do like the actual function that you had, like I have like right here, right? So because you could be checking for even numbers, you could be checking for odd, you could be squaring, you could be raising it to a 5th power, then plusing, plus, adding plus 20, or whatever you're doing. When you have more complicated stuff, it just makes it better to put it in a function so that you don't make, like, you can unit test it and do stuff there. But essentially, that's what the map function does. It is basically, it makes an iterator that computes the function using arguments from each of the iterables. Stops when the shortest interval is exhausted. So that is essentially what a map function does. If you have any questions about this, please leave them in the comments below. And until next time, keep on coding.